Prime Minister Browne, thank you for speaking with CMC News this morning. We're just trying to get a sense from you as to your impressions of the talks so far.
We have had a very successful conference thus far. Yesterday we discussed a number of issues, regional issues, including the whole effective operations of the CSME, to look at the governance of the CSME, especially the implementation of decisions, and to take the necessary steps to strengthen the implementation process in order to ensure that the decisions that we make, that they get implemented in an efficacious manner. So that was a significant decision that was taken yesterday. We will follow up in the next conference in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and to make some definitive decisions in terms of the new governance framework moving forward. And as I said, the emphasis here is on the effective implementation of decisions, or for that matter, the timely implementation of decisions in order to increase the effectiveness of the CARICOM single market and economy. Now, we also discussed other issues to include the coronavirus, COVID-19, and to strengthen and to ensure that there is a stronger coordinated regional response. As you know, we are all endeavoring to keep the virus out of the Caribbean because of how disruptive it could be to trade, especially tourism trade, and even to the health of CARICOM nationals. And there's a general consensus that we ought to beef up and to ensure greater coordination among CARICOM states in dealing with this existential threat facing the Caribbean. And yesterday we were addressed by Baroness Scotland on the issue of the Commonwealth Secretary General, and I think there's a general consensus that we will all support her reappointment and to literally fight the humiliation that is taking place among some within the Commonwealth, in which they are literally seeking to humiliate her. In addition, there are a number of other issues that were discussed, even some traditional issues involving the water disputes between Venezuela and Guyana and Guatemala and Belize, and we continue to stand with our CARICOM counterparts on those issues. So some very productive discussions, and today we will look at the issue of de-risking and the listing of certain Caribbean states as non-cooperative jurisdictions by the European Union, as well as the deficiencies that were found in the mutual evaluation report of the FATF, and to ensure that all Caribbean countries are compliant. In fact, there was a new list that was published yesterday, and it actually includes approximately 4 CARICOM countries, and we'll be encouraging them to strengthen their AML-CFT framework, as well as the tax transparency framework, to ensure full compliance, so that the risk of being listed as a non-cooperative jurisdiction will actually be eliminated. And then we also have the issue of de-risking, in which we are seeking to continue to advocate to the various stakeholders to ensure that we're not delinked or debanked from the international payment system. We've made significant progress so far. In fact, there has been a general curbing of de-risking, even though it remains a threat. And we have had the cooperation of the corresponding banks in the U.S. You know that last November we held a congressional roundtable in the U.S., which was facilitated by Congresswoman Maxine Waters. And the exchanges are very strong, to the extent that there is now a follow-up conference involving the U.S. Bankers Association and the Bankers Association for Finance and Trade, in which they'll be providing training for the respondent banks here in the Caribbean in order to strengthen the AML-CFT framework and to ensure that there is better understanding, that there is greater coordination, and to deal with the issues generally of mistrust that has existed for many years, one in which the corresponding banks in the U.S. and even in Europe for that matter do not quite understand the risk of banking Caribbean respondent banks. In fact, they may have over-exaggerated that risk. And now that we have engaged and we are having these regular engagements, they're in a position to better manage the risk and they have a better appreciation of the risk. So we continue to monitor and manage that existential threat the best we can. And so far, we have made significant progress.
Even with your ongoing talks with the various banking representatives, how much of an impact has it really had? Has this issue really had on the banking sector in the Caribbean?
Well, I'd say significant to the extent that a number of the corresponding banks that were present during the talks, to include Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Citibank, they have expressed satisfaction for the improvements in the AML-CFT framework as well as the tax transparency framework and the due diligence that is being conducted by all of the respondent banks in the Caribbean. And whereas before, they were very concerned about the risk and were actually actively de-risking, I think now that they feel a degree of comfort that there is top-level commitment from the level of the leadership within the Caribbean as well as the institutional strengthening at the level of the responding banks. And again, as I said earlier, they are now partnering with the American Bankers Association and the Bankers Association for Finance and Trade to have this conference in Miami. I think it's on the 30th and 31st of March, in order to bring these respondent banks together in the Caribbean to provide them with the necessary training so that they can understand fully what the requirements are and to ensure that there's no gap in the expectations and the requirements, and that there could be better coordination and cooperation, and to ensure that the respondent banks, that they have the necessary systems and processes in place in order to manage the risk of money laundering and terrorism financing.
On the issue of the elections for Commonwealth Secretary General, how confident is CARICOM that Baroness Scotland will be re-elected in light of the concerns and the allegations around her?
Well, with the support of all of CARICOM, and I believe that we had unanimity in the decision to support her last evening, and with the African states that we understand are also supporting her, and even a number of states in Asia, we're pretty sure that she will have the majority support when we deal with this issue in Kigali in June of this year. So in terms of probability, I believe that more than likely that she will maintain her position as the Secretary General of the Commonwealth.
There are also elections. We understand that Canada and Ireland are here to seek support from CARICOM for a seat at the UN Security Council. Oh, that is correct.
And both Canada and Ireland would have held bilateral discussions with the various member states, and commitments were given accordingly. It shows the significance of CARICOM as an institution involving 14 member states, in which even powerful countries recognize that they need our support. And in my view, that is an area of strength that we ought to exploit for the benefit of the Caribbean people. And I hope that insofar as the election of Maria Espinosa as the new Secretary General of the OAS, that CARICOM will have unanimity on that issue, because it is one of the ways in which we could coalesce and to show relevance of the region and to utilize our voting bloc to create changes in certain institutions. We all know that Almagro, he has done a terrible job, that he has been an extremely divisive figure within the OAS, and we believe that Maria Espinosa, that she has superior skills and the ability to bring the various countries of the hemisphere together, and that is why Antigua and Barbados jointly with St. Vincent and the Grenadines nominated her. Now, I want to make it abundantly clear that we're not fighting any ideological wars here. In fact, we nominated Maria as easily one of the most skilled individuals within this hemisphere to serve as the Secretary General. And I also think, too, that it will be quite a novel idea to elect her as the Secretary General, and if I'm not mistaken, she may become the first female Secretary General of the OAS. And that is a type of leadership that CARICOM needs to provide within this hemisphere. Not because we're small means that we have to continue to just follow the trend of the larger countries. I mean, we should be able to stand up in the international fora and even the hemispheric fora and to make decisions that are in the best interests of this region, to promote our own agenda, not to carry the agenda of others. And I want to make a special appeal to those countries within CARICOM that perhaps mistakenly may be considering supporting any other candidate other than Maria Espinosa to reconsider their position. And I'll say publicly that for them to do otherwise is literally undermining the effectiveness of CARICOM, undermining our camaraderie, undermining our aspiration to provide leadership within this hemisphere.
And just to look at matters on the domestic front for a minute, give us an assessment of the Antigua economy at this point.
Our economy continues to perform very well. Easily one of the best performing economies in this hemisphere, consistently for the last 5 years. We have grown on average about 5% per annum. In 2018, we did 7.4%. And this year, we expected to do at least another 6 or 7%. So I would say that it is clearly a well-managed economy, one that is performing optimally. We do have fiscal problems, just like other countries in the Caribbean, and they will take some time to resolve. But at the same time, with that level of growth, I'm quite sure that we'll be able to resolve those fiscal difficulties over a period of time.